Hey, how's it going? Welcome to another BioDevils podcast. My name is BioDevil Dom, and we are here with a number of different guests, and we are going to be talking about the recent October 22 Resident Evil showcase. But without further delay, let me go ahead and introduce our guests here. We do have a couple of people running late, but they'll go ahead and introduce themselves when they are here. So first up, you got me, BioDevil Dom. After that, we got Dark Angel. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Can't talk. I'm dead. I don't know anything.
Alrighty. Up next, we got Mr. Gamma. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Is this the bingo line?
Yeah, I guess. Everybody's gone off to bingo, right? So probably. After that, we got Mr. Iveega.
Is this where I can purchase a Jill sandwich?
I think you're in the wrong place.
God damn it! I thought this was Burger King.
No. After that, we have KaptainKaos.
What's going on, guys? Excited to talk about the Resident Evil 4 remake and I guess some other stuff related to that.
Yep. And last but not least, we have Sir Brandel, ImmortalBrandel. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi there, guys. I'm sleepy as fuck because what a sleep schedule. Yeah, looking forward to this. Already
Nice.
rules. Not really.
Yes. So, like I mentioned, we do have technically we have two other guests that are supposed to show up. One of them may or may not, and the other one is running about 25 minutes late, so they'll be here later, or at least hopefully both of them will be here later and introduce themselves right then and there. That being said, let's get into our very first question here and kind of get the ball rolling. So during the showcase, it was announced that Resident Evil Reverse was going to have an early access weekend or week for those who already own the game, with Resident Evil Village. It will have a roadmap for content updates for a year. This game is apparently going to have a year life cycle. Typically, Capcom, if they ever do this kind of thing, they only support their game for a year. After that, they drop it. I would be incredibly impressed if they ever go further than that. So we'll just have to wait and see. But for anybody that has played Reverse during the early access or even after it, what did you think? What are your thoughts of it now compared to when it was in the beta last year? Has your opinion changed on the game? Also, before we let anybody go, I do want to note off too that Reverse does have a battle pass that unlocks more tiers, and those tiers will get updated as the game is getting updates. Hound Wolf Squad is playable. The Village from Resident Evil Village is a map that will be featured in the game, and the game also features crossplay.
I'll go real quick. Make my thing short and sweet. Compared to when we played the game back in during the beta phase, whatever. Back in what year was it? 2020?
21, I think. So the game came out last year, right?
It came out last year, though.
Yeah.
I think the beta was a little bit beforehand, though, right? But honestly, I don't remember. Don't care. Yeah, so I do enjoy the game more now compared to when I did yesteryear. The game balance is still all over the place. It's still stupid. Chris is still a god for the most part, despite having technically a different loadout now. But yeah, I won't bullshit. I'm not going to play this game religiously like other games. It's not going to be that game for me. Maybe I pick it up once in a while and have fun with it, or maybe rage. Who knows? But yeah, I say the game is definitely seemingly a lot more healthier currently than, let's say, what Resident Evil Resistance is currently. You know?
I was going to say, I keep getting the two of those confused.
Yeah.
Oh, it's called one Dead by Daylight and the other one called. There you go.
Yeah. Well, and Resist. Well, both games are done by the same development studio, so it's not too surprising that they could be mixed up like that. Personally, from what I played with it, like I'm not gonna lie, when I was going for my trophies on that game, I was getting frustrated because there is a lot of bullshit in that game still. lot of easy ways to die. Like if you get knocked down, there are no iframes. Your character gets up slow. You have no time to react, and you're pretty much screwed. If you get knocked down in the game, you're just kiss your ass goodbye. It's very unforgiving. Same thing with like being BOW. It just seems like you don't really have enough health, even with like the tokens and stuff like that. But I will say, I do find it a little bit more enjoyable than when it was in beta phase, especially in private matches. I think this is a game more fun for like when you get your friends together and just play it as like a dumb little shooter. Nothing like competitive though. Like if for the long run, I might jump back in there. I'm not gonna lie, like the battle pass is actually reasonably priced, only $10. The DLC that they have so far for it, minus the micros, only about $3. I would consider like actually putting money into this game and playing it, just as like a side game to play with the guys here. The other stuff though too, like the additional content that's going to be coming, like Hound Wolf Squad and the map, like that's interesting. That was not in the early access. I don't know if that's been added in now, because I haven't played it. I didn't play it earlier today at all because it was currently under maintenance, or last time I was playing it, it was under maintenance. Probably isn't now, so I'll have to check it out. But I do think it is interesting how Hound Wolf Squad is playable in Reverse, but not in the Mercenaries for Village. Also, James, welcome. Do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, it's late, Hunter James. Today I had another meeting to go to. Bad timing. How's it going, folks?
That's all right. We just started our first question, so you just made it in time.
Okay, so I haven't missed like nothing then. Good.
You made it to bingo.
Oh, it's a reverse question. All right. Oh, what do we think of the game now? That's the question.
Yeah. Do you have the doc open? Because
yeah, I got it open right now. I think it's definitely more polished than the alpha. The alpha was pretty terrible. Like, there's a lot of shit that did not work in that. So it's still got balancing things to work out. Like you get stun locked into oblivion. If you're on the ground, you might as well put down the controller. You're dead, type of thing. I think it just needs more polish. But definitely, I think it has some stay value. I don't know how long, but we'll see if it beats. What was the other mode again? The Mastermind one again?
Resistance.
Yeah, I'll see if it lasts longer than Resistance. Resistance did go for a good while.
Resistance went on for a year. It also had a roadmap. It also added in a couple new characters, and I believe like a couple of maps that weren't there. I was surprised that they were even willing enough to like recreate the prison section from Revelations 2. So it kind of makes me wonder if like maybe some locations from like that game or any other Resident Evil game might get remade for multiplayer just for this game during the roadmap.
I mean, I don't see why not. The maps are way smaller, so it should be easier for them to work it out.
Yeah,
especially like based on like what the RE7, the house that was pretty easy for them to make. Yeah, the Baker house. Yeah, it shouldn't be that hard. I feel like they have a formula already. But like I said, though, we'll see how long it lasts. Given Resident Evil multiplayer, that lasts pretty short, at least based on history.
They're all planning it to support it for a year, so I guess we'll see what happens.
That's about as long as I would go for, honestly, because people are going to be on it. They have their jollies, they move on, type of thing. It usually doesn't have that much staying power.
I get that. Like for me, I personally wasn't interested in Oriverse, but like since Dom said some good things about it, I probably might pick it up eventually.
It is a good time to screw around with, just for the sheer purpose of messing around. It is fun.
If you just want to just fuck around with it, and just play it for fun with friends, maybe just do some of the online stuff to unlock like the perks, so that way you're like more prepared for a private match with like other friends that might have done that already. yeah, it's a dumb little fun time that you could just play like in the background for fun. Like I mentioned earlier, I would be extremely surprised if Capcom and NeoBards supported this game for more than 1 year. But then again, NeoBards is also working on Silent Hill F now, so I don't know if they're going to be really focusing on updating this game post 1 year, because they are also working on that major project. So we'll see how that turns out. Anybody else want to go on number 1?
Yeah, I haven't played Reverse.
Not me, because I have not seen it.
All right, cool. So James, since you just got here, do you want to read off number 2 here for me?
What are your thoughts on the Shadow of Rose trailer? I think it's trippy. Like, that's the first thing I thought. Just that, and based on the weird power she has, trippy and mysterious, I guess. I have to like watch it again to like get all the context for it, but yeah, I thought it was interesting. At least she's probably gonna be the new. She might, I assume, be the pro tag for RE9.
No, they confirmed that this is gonna conclude her story.
Yeah, she's just. It's just like
okay.
a one.
Wow, that's short. That is super short. I'm surprised Capcom. They usually like getting another female protagonist on board.
I will say it is a little bit disappointing because I kind of wish they would have maybe. Like there might have been some other stuff with her character. I mean, we have a lot of other games with, characters like, I guess you'd say the legacy characters that have been around forever. It would have been interesting to get maybe like a new, maybe, I don't know, a new character in some future games. But, I'm kind of surprised they're just,
I'm with you, Chaos.
Yeah, they're just going to do the DLC with her and then that's it. So
at least make her a merc character or something.
I really didn't like. Oh, spoiler, by the way, those 5 of you haven't played the game yet. I hate that it actually killed Ethan because his character growth going from 7 to 8 was pretty damn big.
Yeah,
they could have done a lot more with his character.
They really could have.
I was kind of shocked when he did. I guess spoiler that he's dead. I honestly, I can say I didn't really see that coming. To be honest, I thought that I didn't think they would do that. So I was, when I finished the game, I was a little bit surprised. Especially with the time skip as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think so. So the one thing is like I do agree. It's when you really think about it with either Rose or Ethan, because like I personally think that they did way better with Ethan and his character arc in Village. I feel like he was just written well, much better in comparison to 7, but that's just my opinion on that. And I would have liked to have seen him at least maybe continue in like either this DLC or in 9 just to kind of conclude his story, even though a lot of our other Resident Evil characters have not gotten a proper conclusion. The same thing with Rose. Like I think like I have issues with this DLC because they're going more into like this paranormal psychological thing, and Resident Evil's never been about that, and I don't know why they keep trying to push that in Resident Evil when it's supposed to be about biological viruses and monsters and stuff like that. But at the same time, right, with this character Rose, like I feel like them just concluding her story like this, like I feel like there's a lot of missed opportunities for what could have been for the future. Like Capcom typically doesn't like to really delve into what happens after the post credits or what happens with like certain other characters. Like they never really explain that. Like Resident Evil 3 is the original Resident Evil 3 is a prime example of that. So I do think it's a missed opportunity. That being said, from what I have seen of the trailer, because I have not played the chapter yet, so I don't know what happens in it. I got very Evil Within impressions with some of the locations and some of the stuff that was happening in the game for that chapter. So in that regard, I am interested to see like how that turns out. Part of me is going to have to just kind of go into it and just act as if it's not Resident Evil at that point. Because as mentioned earlier, I'm just not really a fan of how they've been handling like story aspects for that. But on the other hand, I do want to give it a fair shake. So,
yeah, I do like the fact that you're playing as a character that has like, these abilities and stuff. It does feel very different in that regard. Just can't remember if you really do that in the any of the other games.
Technically, you do in Resident Evil 6.
Okay, yeah, because I haven't really played much of 6.
Sherry.
But,
Yeah, Jake
4
and
as
Sherry,
well, Krauser.
technically.
mhm.
I mean, heck, you only technical as well. Wesker and Krauser.
Yeah, I was gonna say Wesker.
Yeah,
And
that's
yeah,
true.
45
Yeah.
he's there again, so
Yeah, but if we're talking like just story stuff and not side content,
Mhm.
Technically just Sherry and Jake, and then what's her face from Revelations 2, Natalia.
Oh right.
the fucking brick throwing child.
Yeah, the Chad.
Yeah, because didn't she have some
Chad
kind
Town.
of sensory like X-ray vision or something? I forget exactly.
Yeah, she get able to see like other phobos creatures, through the walls or whatever.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to playing the Rose DLC. I haven't gotten around to playing it yet. I do like that the Winter's expansion is at least not too pricey. So I'll probably get around to playing it pretty soon. I mean, I hear it's only like 3 hours long, so it won't take you long to get through.
All right. So, anybody else have any thoughts on this?
No expectations for me.
Gotcha.
I will say, like, I am kind of wondering, like, I mean, obviously, I haven't played it. I'm just speculating, but wondering if they're going to have any sort of like tease for maybe the future Resident Evil title or something at the end of it. I'm kind of hoping for something like that, but I kind of doubt it considering, they're busy with the Resident Evil 4 remake. So I'm not really sure what we can expect for like any future entries. And I guess we probably won't get anything in regards to that until maybe after the 4 remake comes out, most likely. But I don't know. I'm just kind of guessing, but that's what I would expect.
Yeah.
It does
All
look
right,
like an interesting DLC. That's all. I did it.
Yeah.
That's all.
All right. Yeah. So I'm gonna let Brandel read off number 3 here.
Okay. The Mercenaries additional orders will have some gameplay adjustments, such as undefeated enemies will chase after you now. We have 3 no playable characters like Chris Redfield, Heisenberg, and Lady herself, the Queen. And my other stuff that I actually figured out off the top of my head was also another thing to note too is that apparently the reason why Capcom added in those 2 characters in particular, Lady and Heisenberg, because they think players will have more fun with them compared to the more traditional human characters.
Why couldn't
They are the most popular bosses to boot, so
They really are.
That also they do add a new spin to things because Heisenberg, instead of just using handguns, well, both of them don't use handguns, but Heisenberg in particular, he uses his powers like throw scrap metal, buzzsaws, uses his hammer, and summon a jet solidad, stuff like that. And for Lady, she uses like bugs, her claws as melee weapons. Summon one of her daughters and toss her mirror, the same one you see in the cutscene at enemies.
Does she not have a butt smash attack?
No, she does not, sadly.
Damn it!
But she gives you a good view. I've seen that
those
picture.
2 are like unorthodox Resident Evil characters. For some favorite one, they don't use guns.
Does
my question is real quick? My question is with Lady D, right? Is that she summons her daughter and gets mad that they can die in the cold, and that you killed them in the cold, but you could summon them in the fucking outdoors cold light.
Look, it's Mercenaries. It's not canon. It doesn't count.
I'm just saying.
There are no rules in Mercenaries.
Yeah, Mercenaries has no rules. It's not canon.
I'm just saying, maybe we should get a Summer Village DLC to kind of melt away the snow.
You just want to see him in a bikini,
time.
don't you?
Yeah, beach time. Let's go.
Yeah, let's go. Beach Town Village. Let's go. Let's go. And then make
the Watkins with shades.
All right, Lady D bikini DLC.
I wouldn't.
Then make Moreau playable too. Okay, like I don't know.
Just have him in the ocean.
I wouldn't put it past.
Like, I'm the best.
I wouldn't put it past Capcom to throw a bone to the Rule 34 artists by giving like us a summer DLC or whatever with the swimsuit.
I mean, Brandon, you sent the pic in here now.
Okay.
He had the one thing. I know you know what I'm talking about. You
know, there's a few questions I have. One, why isn't it in third person? Everyone wants to see Lady D in third person, and also two.
Well, I can give you a reason why.
Actually. And too damn big.
Well, she's too damn tall.
Which
I was going to say
normally I would never say, but in this case, yes, for the camera.
And two, does Heisenberg throw out crystal blue persuasion at people?
Not yet.
Well, he talks about something else.
This is not meth.
Yeah, so Breaking Bad references aside, I mean, Mercenaries looks interesting, but I don't know exactly. Aside from the characters, I don't know exactly what they changed because I know Brandon, you really played it, right? Mm-hmm. But you know, the one thing that I think with like Mercenaries that's kind of disappointing is that they didn't add in the Houndwolf squad characters as playable characters at all in Mercenaries. And yeah, you could argue, well, they're all human characters. They wouldn't have been that different. But traditionally speaking, most of the characters that we have ever played as in Mercenaries mode have all been human characters that typically were just standard humans. They weren't altered by any means, with a few exceptions here and there, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is disappointing that we didn't get the extra characters because honestly, that would have been a big bonus to have like a huge roster of characters for the game, right? But for what we got here, though, like each character is honest to God unique, and that's the thing about the roster we have here now. Even if it's small, 4 characters though, each one of them are unique from each other in more ways than one. So it's pretty much quality over quantity.
Yeah, like the only reason why I would bring that up with the characters in particular is because like they also had a bunch of weapons that you don't ever get to use in the main game, but you will be able to get to use them in Reverse once those characters are added in, assuming they haven't been already added in. Because again, I haven't played Reverse again since the maintenance. And then there was also the BSAA character that was a BOW. So it's like he's just kind of there, and they didn't do shit with him. It's like, come on, like it's like that meme where like the kid's poking something. He's like, come on, do something already. Like that's kind of where I'm at with like the lack of those characters not being added in. But it is cool to see like some of these other characters getting added in. So, but I am definitely interested in trying it out. So Mercenaries, no third person option at all, correct?
No third person, which does make sense for one character in particular is Lady. So the maps are actually, some of them at least, are actually redesigned around her because how tall she is. Because she cannot get into certain spaces. So they have to open up certain spots that would be impossible for the other characters to go through. In other words, though, she technically has the easiest maps to go through for Mercenaries.
Interesting.
I would play those the most.
Any other thoughts on Mercenaries here? I see James posting Lady.
That was what Brandon was trying to post.
Yeah.
I see. There's Lady D's double D's in the call here.
You're gonna say that.
More like quadruple D's. Like, god damn.
So low hanging fruit you just made.
Oh, they're low hanging, all right.
No, that would be me. I mean, what?
So so everyone's good on that. Why don't we have Chaos read off number 4 then?
Okay. Resident Evil Village had an updated 60-minute timed version of the castle demo with the ability to play in third person. Did you try out the demo, or did you decide to wait on the full release of the Winter's Expansion / Gold Edition? Note, Capcom still insists on hiding Ethan's face, even in third person, despite being able to see part of his face. The camera will force Ethan to start turning left or right away from it when trying to view his face. Yeah, I'll just go ahead. I haven't played the demo, but I've seen people play it. It looks like a pretty smooth transition, going from first person into third person. Although I've heard that the movement's a little bit clunky or something, but that's kind of
I could get into more detail.
Yeah, that's kind of the same criticism people have lobbed at the Shadows of Rose DLC as well, that the movement's a little bit weird. So that's the only thing I've heard about it. Other than that, it looks good. And I've also heard it suggested that you probably shouldn't play third person mode until you've played through it once, I guess, in first person. But I think you could probably do either one, but I don't know. Maybe it just feels more natural, I guess, in first person as the reason why people say that. So I'm not really sure.
I'm agreeing with that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep it brief though, but I do have quite a bit to say about the third person. Personally, I'm actually not the biggest fan of it after playing it for the first time. Why? Because it does feel a bit clunky. Animations, especially, don't look completely finished. Because for starters, the game itself was meant to be in first person. So when you're trying to inject another playstyle into it, though, it does clash. It is pretty noticeable, right? Now, it's not unplayable, though, right? Though, I suggest you play first person first, and then play in third person, because that's how the game was meant to play anyway. I would say the same thing if, say, Resident Evil 2 had a first person mode. I would suggest playing third person first, then playing the opposite.
Didn't some modders also use the first person mode for the RE2 remake?
Yeah, it's awful, and I'm not gonna lie. But that being said, though, the demo itself wasn't even that good, because it was just a castle demo, but it gives you an option to level up your guns, which is cool. But it only gives you the base handgun, which is as base stats it has is garbage for the castle. So not so good.
Just a quick correction on that: the previous castle demo also allowed you to upgrade your guns too.
I know, but I'm talking about strictly just this demo in particular. But aside from that, though, you could literally just run through the demo and beat it in 2 minutes. Though there's nothing exciting about it or anything that would showcase the third person. If anything, though, the castle itself kind of is a good argument going against the third person, because certain spots do not work because the camera just turns or phases through the walls or whatever. Honestly, it does not work in that spot. They'd do better off having the first location where you go against a horde of Lycans. That would have been a better showcase of the third person, because you have more to see in that area.
Yeah, I didn't really consider that, but yeah, I feel like the camera would be a potential issue for trying to transition into a third person mode, because the game wasn't designed around that originally.
Mm-hmm. But that being said, though, my first impression is just based on the demo. I have not played the full game yet, so when I get to that, I'll share my thoughts today on another podcast. But for now, first impressions, I'm not impressed with it.
So, my thoughts on it specifically are that because I did play the demo several times, I did like what I played of it. I think what was Jesus Christ. Oh my God. These clowns in the chat. Yeah. So anyway,
happy.
Yeah, I liked the demo and I liked what I played of it, but I do agree. I feel like they could have picked a better location for the demo. Hell, I would have argued they should have maybe picked a completely different location that they didn't do a demo of before, maybe to better highlight the third person over the shoulder. My opinion of it is obviously that I would have preferred it in this play style from the get-go. But I do agree that Village was designed from the ground up to be in first person. And there are aspects of it that absolutely don't mesh well. Specifically, when you are in the prison segment of the castle, and you go into a prison cell, and all of a sudden the camera zooms in way too fucking close, and you're having trouble aiming because the reticle is all over the place because you're just trying to aim at the thing that's in front of you, and you can't because the camera zoomed in way too close. I did also notice that in some portions, it did look like there were aspects of the reticle that didn't line up properly with where your gun was aiming if you were trying to aim up, because there is treasures that you could find within the castle demo, just like in the full game. So that stuff is noticeable. Also, as far as the movement goes, specifically with running, I don't know if it was just me, but it did seem like the running is faster in third person. And again, I don't know if that's just because they moved the camera back and that's how it's always been, or if it's literally because of the fact that, yeah, they moved it back and now all of a sudden it's causing issues where he's running faster than what he normally would be. So it's something that I feel like I might have to replay again and really test it out, and kind of ask other people who might be playing it in the call here and see if they could also confirm if that is legitimately the case. That being said, though, despite my issues, like I said, I did actually really like it. I do think that I will be playing Resident Evil Village quite a bit with third person over the shoulder. I am really curious because I think we brought this up last time we talked about them announcing this. I am curious to see if maybe that this is going to be something they're going to do from here on out for every Resident Evil game. Going into like Resident Evil 4 Remake and whatever Resident Evil 9 is, or any other Resident Evil game they might be doing in the future, mainline Resident Evil game. Because we'll talk a little bit more about Resident Evil 4, but and let's also not forget that Resident Evil 4 Remake is also going to have VR support, so it will be playable in first person to some degree. So it's just some food for thought on that.
I was gonna say, like, I am kind of wondering in regards to the camera, like how is it gonna be like in specific instances of the game, like for example, like the Heisenberg fight, because I remember, like, don't you get into a tank or something in that fight? Like I'm kind of wondering how that's gonna look in third person, and how it's gonna work. Like if it might be like kind of an issue just because of the camera, but I don't know. I'm kind of wondering, like in instances like that, I'm kind of wondering how the third person mode is gonna function.
Mm-hmm. Real quick too, before next person goes, the thing that I also was kind of confused about was that Rose got like a pre-order DLC for pre-order costume DLC, like as a bonus for her chapter. And I thought it was just kind of weird how she got an alternate costume. And again, I know that DLC was specifically made to be played entirely in third person, whereas the main game Village was not. It is kind of making me curious why they didn't also just give Ethan like an additional like costume, just for the hell of it, even if it is just like a similar skin to Rose.
Oh yeah, give us like the RE7 skin. Why not? It's basic shit, sure though, but still, something.
Yeah, like or again, like even if it was just like the thing that they did with Rose, where it's literally just let's just make all of her clothes black and then give her the Hound Wolf logo on her back or whatever. Like I would have been fine with that. Like I think it would have been cool to see Ethan also get something. But it is what it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else want to go on this question here?
I got nothing on that one.
Alrighty. Can I get Arian to read off number 5 here?
Oh, you can. I told you myself. All right. I'll try.
Capcom gave more information on the release dates for cloud-based versions of several Resident Evil titles. Does anyone here really care?
No.
No.
No, not really.
Well, moving on. Number 6.
Well,
Yeah,
To be fair, just get yourself a fucking PC,
or
yeah,
other console.
a PS4 at the very least.
So the only thing with this is that, like, okay, this is basically, hey, Switch is finally getting Resident Evil Village 2 Remake, 3 Remake, and 7 Gold Edition. Probably eventually they'll also get RE4 Remake. They're also getting the Winter's expansion at a later date as well.
I might add to the Mac.
I was gonna say we're finally getting the crap.
Oh
report.
god, the Mac.
Oh boy.
Yay! For all 2 people that use a Mac.
Yeah,
I can't wait to play the game when my Mac computer at work, when I'm in my office, I'm using the Mac.
When you're sipping your
Soylent when I'm in
with,
Starbucks,
computer. Like,
is it extra
I think real quick, I think with I think with sorry, I just had someone barge in.
Sorry, that was me.
No,
forgot my towel.
I think the weird thing with it is that, Capcom wants Nintendo, and a lot of other developers, right, want Nintendo to release a Switch Pro that can actually keep up with their engines, and so that they can make their ports without having to dumb down their games so significantly.
I mean, Valve did.
Yeah,
they
technically. Technically, we have what is it, Monster Hunter Rise, which is running on RE Engine, right, on Switch. So they have a watered down RE Engine, but even then, Capcom is also refusing to make official ports and instead resorting to cloud-based versions.
Yeah, keep in mind that's only one too. Square Enix is very guilty of this. A lot of their games are on cloud, like Kingdom Hearts and Guardians of the Galaxy.
Control. Yeah, that's the thing I've noticed with Switch is that anytime a game comes out and it's like a big title like Resident Evil Village, it has to be cloud-based. I'm like, just get a Steam Deck. Or just get another
Damn, is your game past 2016? We can't handle that.
You can't handle it.
No, we can't handle it. It'll just look like shit.
Yeah, so I just think it's kind of strange little situation, because I don't really care about these ports. It sucks for the people that want to play these games on Switch, but now they have to resort to streaming the game. If your internet connection sucks, you're not really going to be able to play this game. Nope. Granted, they are giving people a demo for Village to try out the cloud-based version. Cool, but even then, that's you're still limiting your audience by having it streamed. So it's Nintendo's dumb for not making an updated, stronger console.
You could have stopped at Nintendo's dumb.
Yeah, well, Nintendo's dumb, but and then Capcom is just not willing enough to take the resources and the time to make official Switch ports that aren't running on the cloud.
Well, I can't say I blame it. If you did, this console, for starters, the game would look ugly as shit, and two, it run poorly. Yeah, so is it really worth it? Just do a cloud one. It's more cost efficient.
Yeah, so it's nobody really wins here in this situation, and that's why I don't think anybody really cares if they release a cloud version.
Yeah,
it's like, don't get me wrong, I think the Switch is a good console, but when it comes to other consoles having the same game, like PS5, Xbox Series X, I just look at those, I'm like, those are the better options for it. Granted, some games are good on Switch, but not all games. # not all games are good on Switch.
Even The Witcher 3, a game that is known for its optimization, needed a fucking miracle to be downgraded.
I was gonna say, I'm actually kind of shocked that game runs on the Switch. It's really demanding.
You and everyone else.
And Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal. And Wolfenstein 2 of all things.
Yeah. So anyway, now that we have all of the other questions out of the way all this other stuff out of the way, now it's time for the main event, the real thing that we came here to talk about, Resident Evil 4. Levy, why don't you go ahead and read off number 6 here for us?
Alrighty, let's talk about RE4 Remake. It has shown off some extensive gameplay within the showcase. What are your impressions of the game so far? Honestly, I loved what I saw of it.
Yeah.
I'm also the Fed note.
Yeah, same. It was pretty impressive. Like I like how they were showing off as well, just some new mechanics, like for example, like what you can do with the knife. That was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
It blew my expectations. I was not expecting the game to look that insane.
Yeah. Like
I feel like I should ask who else pogged when they saw Leon parry a chainsaw.
Yeah, I was flipping out. I had to get out of my chair.
I pogged when he kicked somebody.
Kick.
I can't open shit anymore after that chainsaw appear.
Listen, I had the expectation that they were going to remove a lot of things. They didn't. They did more shit. Somehow
they added more things.
Don't worry, Jason. We get to that question very soon.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. We'll definitely talk about it.
Do we have to?
Yes, we do, because it's important.
The gameplay got me so fucking hyped. I was told to basically shut the fuck up because I was waking up people in my apartment. So that's how hyped I was. I didn't give a fuck if I was waking up people because I was so hyped.
Go to bed.
Resident Evil 4 Remake, so far from my initial impressions of the gameplay that they showed off in the trailer, is doing everything it needed to do. While I would not have minded if they strayed more into it being a horror-focused remake, I do like what they're doing with this remake in that they're not taking away the action, but they are increasing the amount of horror. There's more horror elements in the game, and some significantly improved action, which we're going to talk about very soon here. That honestly, I would argue is basically like replicating what like the Revelations games did, where it's a very decent hybrid of both action and horror, and I think that's what Resident Evil 4 Remake needed to be.
Yeah, I like that they're doing that because I mean, of course, the original Resident Evil 4, you could still say, there is definitely horror, but it definitely leaned more into campy, B-movie territory at times, which I don't doubt that, they're still going to try to do that to some extent in the remake, but I do like how it's, more, it's trying to be more horror. A blend of action and horror. And I feel like, they definitely lean more into the action and like, for example, for the Resident Evil 3 remake. And I think I kind of hope they're taking some of the elements of that actually worked and, transferring it over into 4. From what I could tell from just the gameplay, it looks like it feels a lot better in terms of, the action, in the 4 remake. There's more you can do. Like, for example, like stuff you can do with a knife and you could just kick people out of the way. That's pretty cool. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
I have to talk about the knife real quick.
Mm-hmm.
When I realized that you could like parry, that blew my mind because the thing that the original 4 lacked was like a decent block mechanic, at least in my opinion.
I mean, blocking any Resident Evil, really.
I know. But, just like an extra, like, defense feature, Just like
in 7, wasn't there the thing where you could, like, put your hands up or whatever? Like,
7 and Village, you can block.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty much just those games.
Yeah.
In Resident Evil's... real quick, like in Resident Evil's 1 remake and 2 remake, you had defensive items that you could use on enemies. In 3 remake and in 3 original, you had the dodging mechanic, which allowed you to pull off some extra shots for critical damage on enemies, or just be able to push away enemies. It was very useful. Little disappointed they didn't also try to blend some aspects of that into RE4 remake, but understandably that might make things a little bit way too complicated if you start adding in too much to the game, right? So it is So there's that, and then like 5 just expanded on what 4 did. 6 expanded upon it even more and allowed you to literally take fucking items from an enemy and just fucking knock their heads off with it. It was ridiculous. So
I can't wait to see how they're going to treat the what do they call the regenerators or whatever from the original game.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
they're going to make that like 10 times as scary.
probably.
Possibly, yeah.
I hope the knife trick still works. It would be scared of me.
Kick.
Assuming your knife is durable enough.
That is true. That is the one counter they may have.
One thing though, real quick though, I would say this that the people will say that Resident Evil 4 didn't need a remake now. I wonder how this guy's doing right now as I've seen that gameplay trailer.
Like
probably pre-ordered the game.
Like I've always kind of been somewhat in the middle on that. Like I think the original game is great, but I'm all for like them. If they wanted to do like a reimagined version or something like that, which it seems like that's probably where they're going with it.
I think I was talking a little bit about this with my brother. I think that what Capcom is going to end up doing is like they're going to eventually remake every mainline Resident Evil game, even Remake, mostly because of the fact that I think they are primarily going to want to have every single Resident Evil game on RE engine eventually. It might not be, it's not. We'll talk about that game in a second. It might not be something that we'll see happen, immediately, but like over time, because as the years go on, these games get older and older and older, and it justifies them getting a remake more and more and more. More so than Last of Us, which I know every one of you agrees.
And Horizon.
Yeah.
I forgot.
Absolutely.
Can't wait to see that.
Pretty much anything Sony's going to put out is going to not deserve a fucking remake. Let's be honest.
Like, say what you will about like even if you don't agree with like RE4 remake needing or RE4 needing a remake, it's way more justifiable than Last of Us.
At least that game is old.
I would argue,
yeah,
like people might disagree with like having a Resident Evil 5 and Resident Evil Revelations remake, but I would argue, Resident Evil 5, that game came out in what, 2007, right?
2008.
After 2008, yeah. So after this remake, because it's going to be 2023. Assuming we're going to get Resident Evil 9 right afterwards, or a different Resident Evil game, because we could always get a Revelations 3, right? We don't know. They would consider remaking Resident Evil 5. I think they would eventually consider remaking Revelations 1, considering the fact that it came out on the DS in 2012. Yep. So I definitely think we could see a remake of that, and I think that game is really deserving of a remake, especially if they revive some of the cut concepts from that game, because there's a lot of cool stuff that they didn't put in the official game. And I wouldn't even I really would not be surprised if they went out and even did like an RE6 remake eventually in RE engine, because that game came out like 10 years ago,
Yep.
But by the time it gets remade, it might be like 15, 16 years after the fact, right? Like when we really think about it.
I agree with that sentiment as well for the other games as well. Because let's say if people want a Revelations remake. If someone wants to remake it today, I would say no, because it's too soon, right? Because aside from like certain technical aspects, right? Unlike, let's say, Resident Evil 1, right? Even by the standard when the game came out, it was dated for it. Even Shinji Mikami admitted it. So that's when he remade it, right? So by the time we get the conversation of starting remaking Revelations 1, though, Resident Evil 5 had been remade. Resident Evil 6 is probably around the corner being remade, So, and that's probably like easy 6 years down the line, right? And by then, that game would be easy over close to being 20 years old, right? That would be more justifiable to remake it at that point,
Yeah, and not to mention too, we're also not taking into account like Resident Evil 9, because assuming Capcom is even going to have the numbers anymore, because I think they're going to start straying away from numbers and just using subtitles from now on, which, is understandable. I just wish they didn't do it in such an awkward way with Village.
Yeah.
It's Resident Evil 8, but it's also not Resident Evil 8. We
It's
don't
not.
want
We don't
people to
wanna
call
say
Resident Evil
anything
8.
about it.
So stop calling
It's
it Resident Evil 8.
Village.
Yes, that's the
Well,
answer.
we have the 8, and yet we didn't trademark it as 8. So it's like it's a whole clusterfuck. So, but
Yeah.
beside the point, right? Like, not taking into account Resident Evil 9, not taking into account a potential Revelations 3, or if they even do another Revelations, any other potential spin-offs that they might do, right? Or sequels or remakes. And also too, because we talked RE6 a little bit, right? Think about this, like Revelations 1, RE6, and Operation Raccoon City all came out in 2012. I'd be willing enough to give them a second chance with Operation Raccoon City if they made it in-house with RE Engine. I think that like a remake of that would turn out way better than the original, and I'd be all for it.
Yeah, it has potential, but part of it's Capcom's fault though, but other part is the team behind it. But still, the game had potential.
Yeah, it's like, well, I was gonna say go back to Resident Evil 4 remake. Whenever I first showed my girlfriend like the first trailer they had for it, she was kind of skeptical about it. But then I showed her the gameplay as well as the other trailer that came out for it. She was like, "We need to finish the original 4 right away." I'm like, "Why?" It's like, "Because I want to play this so goddamn bad." And she's like, now she's hyped for it, but she's mad at me because I didn't get the collector's edition for 4.
How dare you?
How dare you?
Bum-ass nigga, how dare you?
Go sleep in the garage, you fucking pleb. It's like, okay. You didn't get the collector's edition?
Mm-hmm.
We're breaking up now.
So
Fair enough.
Yep.
I could believe people would be that petty. You didn't get this edition? Fuck you, I'm leaving you. Like, what?
I have seen so many arguments where it's like, you don't like this, you didn't get this, we're done. It's like, what the fuck is wrong with people?
Okay,
Yeah, it'd be like that sometimes.
So
What did
anyway,
they do to
before
make them
we
hoes that mad?
before we diverge any further, does anybody else have any impression? Want to share their first impressions here? Arian, maybe, because I know you said you.
Oh yeah. Or, well, 4. Initially, when we were watching, everybody was losing their absolute fucking mind over every little detail. So, like trailer wise, it did its job and like banked on it even more. Like people that wasn't even interested got interested because of the way they showcased it.
Yep.
Now, I don't know how. Like, are we gonna like dwell into mechanics right now or later?
We can talk a little bit more about that in the next question, because technically we're talking about cuts and changes, but we could talk a little bit more about mechanics in the next question. But if you want to touch upon it briefly, you can.
No, if it's the next question, then I'll just do the next question. I didn't see it in the doc, that's why I asked. But as far as changes, I mean, I'm loving the way, like, how much longer that first initial house is. Because in the original, it's just you got the bridge and you got the house, and it's literally 2 rooms and upstairs. This one seems to go like underground. There's like a whole fucking dungeon, a whole bunch of shit with all the fucking animals hanging and the bear traps and all that shit. It's just creepy, and I love it. I don't know if the censorship for the body's head is going to be in the main game, or do they just do that for the trailer ratings and all that shit? But if this game is going to be gory,
for the trailers and the fact that like in Japan they always release, they've been releasing ever since Resident Evil 7, I think, the AO, basically the AO version for Japan. So that's probably why they have to do it that way.
Ayo.
Yeah, but other than that, also I don't know if it was just me or did the village section actually felt smaller, like more tight, I should say. Like the corridors were more tight. Between the houses was extremely fucking squeezed in. So that might just
tighter, probably. But everything was going so quick and jumping up there. I really couldn't get a good feel of the space around it.
I guess we won't really know until we get
similar
our hands
enough,
on it.
I would say.
It's fresh in my head just because I recently played 4, so it felt really squeezed in. It might be because they want to make it more cost affordable because it does pose more threat, but yeah.
I guess we won't really know until
interactions.
You won't know until we get like our hands on it.
Yeah. Well, other than that, that's pretty much it. Like change wise from the trailer, but like mechanic wise, do you guys think?
Yeah.
What did you guys really quick?
I was mechanically horny. That counts.
Shut up, bro.
What did you guys think of their addition of stealth? If we can ask that now, or say that for like next question.
It looks like Revelations, so I think that's good.
So let's actually talk about that alongside the next question.
Okay.
Gamma, do you want to go ahead and read our 7th question?
I sure will. Capcom has confirmed that RE4 will not have any major cuts or any cuts from its original counterpart, and we will be around the same length. What are your thoughts on this?
So I'm fine with that. Based on the fact that like it did seem like, especially like mechanically speaking, right? And we'll kind of talk about this as we're having this discussion here. It did seem like a lot of it was very similar or just expanded upon. The only thing I want them to cut from RE4, and James knows exactly what the fuck I'm going to talk about.
They ain't doing it. You heard them.
Is the statue, the Salazar statue, just cut that segment. It is so stupid and out of place. Like, and yes, you could argue, well, Resident Evil is stupid, or Resident Evil 4 as an entirety is a stupid fucking game. It is.
We just burned a cow, parried a chainsaw, and the statue's out of place. I don't know. I think it'll fit right in.
That statue is staying in, my friend. It is not going anywhere.
Honestly, though, I don't like the statue only because of the segment itself, not because the statue exists. They just make it a more fun segment, and I wouldn't care.
Yeah.
I wonder, if it's not going to be QT, how is it going to work? Just going to sprint? That's it?
Don't forget to shoot.
Let it be a boss fight. I don't know.
Oh, boss fight. Boss fight.
Because it's not like QTs aren't in the game per se.
The melee one's still there, so there's that.
So they might still be in there. I mean, RE4 was also, aside from the fact that it was renowned for its over-the-shoulder gameplay that revolutionized third-person shooters at the time, it was also renowned for its fucking QTs as well, because it had a lot of them.
Ones.
Yeah, it did.
But I personally would like to see that segment changed or cut.
Honestly, the only thing I want cut is having QTs in cutscenes.
Yeah,
I don't think they're gonna do it anyway. I'm pretty sure it won't be there, but that shit is dumb. I didn't. That's the only time in the game that it annoyed me.
Are we gonna?
Sitting down, relaxing, and
are we gonna talk about the?
And then Krauser killed Leon. Oh, I guess this is what happens.
Oh no.
Are we gonna? Just real quick. Are we gonna talk about like the alterations that they're making, like in regards to like certain character designs for like Ashley, for example, like or
we should talk about that actually.
We talk about
also
that as part
like
of this question as well.
Somebody brought up, it seems like she's I guess more proactive based on the trailer. Like she's more like, I guess, she doesn't really need as much help, or she's trying to, I don't know. It seems like she's going to have more of a role in terms of like
she's pulling her own weight, basically.
Yeah, like she's going to be more like just involved in the combat or something, I guess. It seems to imply that, I guess, but I don't know. It seems like they might be changing that to some extent. But I mean, that's just more, I guess, speculation based on what we've seen.
No more hiding in dumpsters.
Yeah, like I'm wondering, like how much are you gonna? I guess
where she belongs.
Yeah. Oh, well, I was gonna say, like I'm guessing, like how much are you gonna have to protect Ashley, or like how much is she gonna, be taking part in the combat? Are you gonna have to be like protecting her all the time, or is she gonna actually like be more like fighting with Leon at certain points in the game? Because the implication for the trailer kind of that's what it kind of gives me is she's gonna be just more. I don't know, like you won't have to do as much, like if you remember from the original game, like you won't have to, try to do that as much, like where she's, going to get kidnapped or whatever, I guess. The gist of what I'm getting at is I guess they're making her less of a damsel in distress type characters.
I have a bit of a kind of a speculative idea here, just based off of like what they've done with other characters that were like that. Resident Evil Revelations 2, you also have partners that don't do anything per se, but what they did do was give them like defensive abilities and the ability to kind of like point out like certain items that might be hidden throughout the areas.
Oh, like Natalia.
I don't think you'll be able to I don't think you'll be able to switch like between Leon and Ashley, although that would be an interesting change. What I do think though is that like Ashley will at least try to, won't be easily caught, won't die in one shot if you quote unquote accidentally, right? Accidentally, boys, shoot her, right? Or knife her.
Please make her immune to the knife.
What I do think is going to happen is like, she'll at least try to struggle more, and she can potentially get out of a grab on her own if you can't make it to her in time. And I think that she might, start throwing like a brick or something like that as a defensive item.
Lantern.
Or maybe even a lantern, if she can carry those.
Yeah, she can just throw them at the enemies.
So I think that's what they might do. But I can only infer so much, because all we've really seen of her is just story related stuff, right? And story related stuff might not necessarily equate to gameplay. But it is an interesting thing that they're changing that. I'm okay with them like scrapping and changing aspects of Ashley, because the original Ashley is just so fucking annoying.
Leon, help!
So annoying.
Leon, help me!
So, I
need those iconic lines, by the way.
Yeah, we need those.
I want them to make Ashley a more likable character in 4 Remake.
Yeah, that's definitely something I kind of want them to change as well. Like I just like she's not the worst, but she's also just very annoying in the original game. I definitely want them to try to.
She could be Moira.
Yeah,
she's more of a liability than anything else, though. That's all I'll say is they give her something that makes her more semi-independent from me for the most part, and not easy target. Then that's fine by me.
Yeah.
The liability thing to me makes sense, I guess. I don't know.
To a certain degree, sure. Yes, I'm not denying that. Though.
Mechanically, it could change a few things, definitely.
The fact that she doesn't, fight back or do anything to struggle out.
If she could, I would say if she could do the struggle mechanic, at least that would be good enough, I guess.
Like shit, Leon could give her something like a knife or whatever to stab into guys and give them fuck
taser.
off because they.
Yeah, I was thinking taser too.
I mean, we've had
something.
We've had one-use tasers in Remake, so I don't see why not, right?
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Okay.
So, what did you guys think of?
Real quick. One thing I want to point out too that I noticed, at least in the gameplay trailer, and that people were screen capping, but nobody was really talking about this. They show a bit of the UI. The UI or the HUD, I should say, right, for like his health and everything is more like the HD mod, or HD project for Resident Evil 4. That was like an option where you could have a more smoothed out, modernized health bar, which that's new, but that's not really what I wanted to point out. Specifically, what I want to talk about is the fact that like when Leon has his handgun, it seems like they're also implementing a tactical reload feature. So what I mean by that is if, let's say, you have one bullet in the chamber, basically, when Leon reloads his gun, he doesn't lose that one bullet, and it doesn't just reload to the max amount. It basically reloads to let's say his handgun has 10 rounds of capacity. Well, if you did a tactical reload or reloaded before you were supposed to, before you ran out of ammunition, you have those 10 rounds plus one in the chamber. And that's never really been done before in Resident Evil. I think that's a very interesting thing to kind of implement because, one, it's more realistic. Two, it's not like the most major like fucking mechanic, because like this is something like Aaron was asking me, was like, yeah, but is it really like this major thing you're gonna lose your shit over? Yeah, like, but on the other hand,
so one bullet can easily make a difference in a fight.
Yeah, I mean,
we're talking here.
And that's kind of what my
pistols do count in that category.
My whole kind of thought process of this is that, well, it's never been done in Resident Evil before, and I could see this being a really interesting way to kind of like make things way more tense, where like you know, you're running really low on ammo, you see an ammo like drop, you pick up that ammo box, and then you do your reload, and now you have that extra round in the chamber, so you could fight a little bit longer, and you could really start thinking about like how to use your ammo in a more smart and effective way, which you did have to in previous Resident Evils, but not to this degree, I think. And I think this is going to be a very interesting thing to see if this is only for handguns, or if this is also going to be applied to all the other guns, or only guns that specifically use magazines. Like, I really want to see them try to explain this, because this is only ever seen in the trailer through screenshots that people were taking, but it's not something that they ever talked about in the showcase, and I thought it was really cool.
What did you guys think about them adding stealth into the game?
Like Revelations 2.
As long as it benefits me, I'm founded, and as long as it's not forced upon me. Because I feel like there's certain situations where you're better off just going in, shooting up dudes, and run away, rather than just doing the usual stealthing.
I get that.
I hope they give me enough reason to use the mechanics, since Leon's such a force in RE4. Like, will I have an actual reason?
Like, it really depends on the kind of situation you're in. Like, if there's a situation where it's like, oh man, I probably shouldn't go in and just shoot everybody. It'd probably be easier for me to just sneak past them. Maybe they'll create a scenario like that.
Like, if I can one shot one of the bigger bosses, like mini bosses from stealth, then yeah, I say it'd be definitely.
Yeah, there has to be some kind of benefit for choosing the stealth route over just killing everybody.
I want to try and like stealth that whole village section and see what happens, if I can.
Can't in the originals. I don't know if they'll let you this time around or not.
I guess we'll have to see.
Actually, something that I kind of thought about too is like they could make that like really like the Evil Within, like both of those games, because the Evil Within, plays a lot like Resident Evil 4. If you didn't know, it was made by Shinji Mikami himself, at least the first one. And they had that whole aspect of like, yeah, you could go around and basically stealth every enemy you encounter really early on in the game. The stealth crouch lets you actually do like insta kills if you really know what you're doing, by like blinding enemies and stuff like that and taking them by surprise. So I think like, if Resident Evil 4 kind of tries to do some stuff that Evil Within did, then that could play into your advantage as far as like having some segments where maybe stealth is a better option than just fighting everything head on. But I do think eventually you're probably just going to end up fighting everything head on.
For the most part, it's definitely going to be head on.
Apply directly to the forehead.
I do want to try like stealthing as much as I can before going in guns blazing.
Like, Aaron, do you want to talk about some of the stuff that you wanted to talk about for mechanics?
Where do I start with this? We already touched upon the stealth a little bit. I think Eli did that. So that's that. As long as, I know with the Los Plagas, it might get like more risky to like finish with them if your finishes involve busting their fucking heads. So that might be a double-edged sword. But other than that, I really hope the suplex is actually a thing. You sneak up on someone. That's gonna be really fucking clean. Other than that, I know you guys touched upon the parry mechanic with the chainsaw and shit. That was the obvious one everybody saw and lost their shit about it, but later in the trailer, they show someone with a pitchfork approaching Leon, and you see the HUD knife icon get highlighted, but this fool instantly like fucking parries it. Like you don't see it start up aim down animation for the knife. It just fucking you Yamato that shit. Like it was actually, if that's how knife's gonna work from now on, especially since you have upgrades for it with durability on that shit, and you can repair it, so that means you're not gonna get a different knife. You're just gonna have that knife for you, likely, unless there's some like stupid challenge with like the lightsaber you had in Village. And if that's gonna be a fucking mechanic that you can combo with your knife, like multiple swings, not just 1, 2, 3. It's that bullshit in every other RE pretty much. -6 had some stuff, some certain characters, but I know a lot of people I saw talk about how they don't like the crosshair and they don't want the laser sight back. I'm pretty sure that's going to be an option in the menu.
They said there's attachments, so
yeah, and you have the laser sight as a thing too, so you can just turn off the
purchasable. There is a purchasable laser sight option.
Yeah,
so you get your option.
Truth be told, I wish it was on by default because I'm in the camp where, like, since the RE engine games, I'm not a big fan of aiming, in particular with the pistols. It doesn't feel right. It feels like my shots don't line up properly, especially in 7 in particular. Okay? That's the first one of its kind. So I would much rather have a laser sight because that's the reason why it was there in 4, 5, and 6 to help you line up your shots better.
Yeah, like
I think like for people that are like maybe not wanting it because they prefer not having it, like, you know, technically you don't ever have to attach that attachment. But I do think that it would be nice to see that every single gun, or at least 90% of the guns, have a laser attachment that can be attached to your gun, considering the fact that the original game, you know, was built around that.
Well, coming off Village and the way the attachment system worked in that game, I wouldn't be surprised if you can buy that because there wasn't much shit in the store. Maybe because it was early in the game, most likely. So maybe you can buy multiple laser sights, put it on whatever gun you want, or like you can share attachments, so you can just beef out a certain gun as much as you want.
Maybe detach attachments, because like that wasn't a thing before.
Yeah, that's speculation.
You could take off the stock, couldn't you?
Yeah, Resident Evil 2, you get your detach on your attachments on your guns. Village, I don't remember if you could do it or not.
You couldn't, but in the reason why you couldn't, because there's no point to doing it. It's just guns getting flat improved. But in like 2 and 3 remakes, it's space issue, right? The more attachments you have, the more space your gun's gonna take in your inventory.
Yeah, that too, and utility. Because like for the shotgun, for example, you could have more spray on it though, but also less likely to get like a critical shot versus having a particular attachment on. So it's really just preference on how you want your guns attached on.
I had no idea that you could detach your attachments in the remakes. So
I didn't know either.
Yeah, because I was going off of Village logic where you couldn't. And that's another thing too, because like, what if you sell your guns, right, with those attachments already added on? Are those going to be permanently staying on, like in the Village merchant system, or are you going to have to rebuy those attachments or refine those attachments and re-upgrade the gun like in the original RE4?
Actually, I'm glad you mentioned that too about the merchant. I really hope they take the merchant system from Village in particular, because the thing that annoys me about 4, that if you sell your gun, you don't keep the upgrades. You have to constantly re-upgrade that gun if you want to buy it back again, which is obviously it's tedious or whatever, right? So I hope they keep that system in permanently for every game that uses the subsystem.
They are staying true to the game, so you know that you're gonna have your old stuff. But Capcom has been having this thing that any quality of life usually stays in the game in this, continuing games. So I'm pretty sure they're gonna have that option. I'm pretty sure New Game Plus you're gonna keep your upgrades unless you just new game it, like actually just start new instead of New Game Plus.
All right, that's a given, of course.
Yeah. So like. In all those aspects, your gun's probably going to cost more buying it back with all the upgrades, just like Village did.
Yeah, it makes sense because you're buying a beefier gun.
Yeah, like it's you. Like I don't know if you get the ammo back in it, but as long as you have the upgrades for it, that should be fine. Oh fuck, I forgot. There was something really important. Oh yeah,
Oh
one
fuck.
thing I wanted to fucking say at the beginning of the trailer, and this might have been just time constraint on the player's side, but when the first guy popped up, he was really trying extremely hard to shoot his arm, and like it cuts it out. Next scene, he's beat, like he's like almost like half health, beyond his limping and shit. So I'm guessing there might be a mechanic behind shooting the arms, the dropping weapons or using it against them. Maybe just speculating here, but again, staying a showcase focus so much on something like that and then not show it. I'm guessing time constraints in that aspect, but that's also just speculation shit. But if there is like stuff like that, imagine if you could shoot this chainsaw off and just pick it up and just go to town.
That would be ridiculous.
Yeah, when you use it though, you're gonna feel.
See it.
Leon had enough.
Kind of going off of that, because the original RE4, when you shot off Ganato's head, that's the only part where the Plagas comes out, right? Same thing with 5. And then 6 did something different where we weren't dealing with Plagas anymore, but we were dealing with C-Virus, and C-Virus had instant mutations, and the mutations could cause any one of the Huavo specifically to just randomly mutate wherever you shot at. So like if you shot their arm, that would just mutate to something. Then if you shot their legs, that would mutate to something. Shooting their head would mutate. So it would have like all these different mutations, right? And I'm wondering, like kind of going off of that, what if like you shoot their arm, right? And this time, instead of the Plagas coming out of their head, it comes out of their hand or something like that, right? Something completely different from the original mutations.
True, but I'm
really
wondering.
Gonna make you.
I'm wondering that could create a continuity error though, because specifically there was always mentioned that the Plagas always come out the head though. But at the same time though, like people like Sattler and Salazar or whatever come out at any other end, So yeah. I don't know. But then again, those are more advanced Plagas versus the village.
Yeah. Well, and I think considering the fact that these are the remakes, right? And the remakes have some continuity errors and they conflict with some of the old lore, even though
I would say quite a few continuity errors.
Quite a few, or
yeah, I said quite a few continuity errors.
Yeah. So and considering the fact that while Peter Fabiano was still in Capcom, right? He was saying, well, everything for Resident Evil 2 is canon. So every release of Resident Evil 2 is canon. Every story ever told for Resident Evil 2 is canon. So by that logic, every release of any Resident Evil is canon, meaning that, continuity doesn't matter. And I think it's more so just, hey, we told a story and there's different ways to experience that story. But that means that lore is not consistently tied to just
that just always has sounded lazy to me. I don't like that.
I agree.
Yeah, and it's also just making a mess.
It makes more of a mess than solves any issues, because if I have questions about like, well, this happened, so how do you explain this other thing, right? Or well, previously it meant this, now you're saying it's this, but you didn't remake the other game, and now there's this continuity error because you included something in the lore that conflicts with the next game or another game that takes place later on in the timeline or before in the timeline, right? So it's weird, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I'd say so.
One other thing that I want to talk about too before we move on to the next question. Nobody mentioned the merchant and how that whole system is, like, as far as what we've seen, is very different. It looks like they got rid of the blue medallions potentially in favor of just trading items at random treasures that you pick up. 4 free items. Although the blue medallions might still be there in the beginning of the game. I don't know.
It could be.
You might have moved them around.
Mm-hmm.
Potentially.
Sure, there might be a whole new set of collectibles evolving into blue medallions.
It's another thing we just have to see.
Dom, you done with your point?
Yeah.
All right. I think 2 more things I would mention would be, one, the shout out to the amount of variety in the village. It's not just 5 different fucking NPCs. You have like everything pretty much look unique between every NPC. So the variety seems amazing. And they already put 10 times more effort into that game than any other game so far. And make the cow thing. I feel like the way they went out of their way to show that off. But you preferably don't want to set a cow on fire because people are kind of sensitive when it comes to animals in video games or in real life. So you want to show that for no reason.
Nice to cow in Resident Evil 4.
Everybody.
Those fuckers try to use their horns on you. I think it's justified.
I would too.
Perfectly justifiable.
Stab me, you'd fuck around about to find out.
See, not me. I think one time the cow accidentally died, so I couldn't restart checkpoint, so I killed myself just to respawn him again. But aside from the point,
this man paid the penance for it.
Yeah. As far as that goes, I feel like the reason why they showed that was because there's going to be a lot of ways to interact with actual, not only environments, but other creatures to get environmental kills. I know this kind of falls into quote unquote spoiler territory, but not really because everybody's been making a fucking article about it. But the dog is in there, or the dog is already dead, or at least the one they killed. The one that helps you with the El Gigante. I said Gigante. Yeah. Too much wrong on. But ship for that might change. Either that or they just want to set off a darker tone. But hey, Leon might have an army of fucking animals that can help him out.
I'm about to be Snow White by the end of that game with the knife.
Oh,
I think the dog is bait, by the way. Real quick, that's so bait. There's dogs to be somewhere else. Like, why is there only one dog? Like, people aren't thinking clear on that shit.
No, it's not necessarily the one dog though. I'm not sure who pointed this out to me. I think it was Arian, but the color of the fur is different from the dog that we saved. So that right there just made it impediment.
The dog in RE4 is like white-ish, right?
Yeah, it's white. It's a white dog.
And the wolf is gray, so.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's that dog.
I feel like it's just a setup to be like, hey, there's bear traps in the area. Good, though.
Yeah, I was just saying he's also smaller than the ones that are actually infected in the original game.
Brandon's favorite enemies, right, Brandon?
Fuck them fuckers.
if the dog is still alive, it needs to appear more.
I am concerned about the fucking transformations of the dog for Remake, because if those motherfuckers have tentacles again,
oh god,
how come I alive?
You don't like losing a third of your health?
No, I don't want to worry about the fucking dog.
I was about to say it's gonna look like that in the remake, probably.
And Fujo,
the fuckers can slap you 5 ways from Sunday.
Yeah, like million slap.
Essentially,
at least give me like some way to counter that, because if we have a counter ability, right, let me counter it somehow, because
maybe
I feel like I feel like doing, because Leon's done it in the game where he has like the back handspring dodge.
Yeah,
at least in like special events. So make that like a thing you can do instead of like, because there's no way if this man is knifing all that, then he is a superhero at this point.
I mean,
like instead of a parry for certain, I feel like contextually, like make it a dodge for certain things.
Yeah,
I would be fine with that.
Considering the fact that he literally slam dunks a fucking what is it, the like skyscraper antenna into Simmons when he's a fly.
He deserved it.
Yeah, I would argue, yeah, Leon's a fucking superhero and it's ridiculous. So does anybody else have any points on number 7, or are we good to move on?
2 more things. One is a question, one is a point. One question, they didn't show anything indicating that Leon can dodge like Jill did in 3.
Yeah.
There was nothing, right? There's like he did not dodge.
No dodges so far.
Nothing at all.
Yeah, no dodge.
No dodge counters like 3 remake.
Yeah.
Or
I mean that in 3 it was really inconsistent and fucking annoying too. So like I don't mind not being there. Second thing being the combat TTs. I like it's just visually it's appealing that it just pops up on their head or like wherever else that they can hit them. And the AoE hit obviously is just fucking great for just crowd control. And I wonder that if your knife's broken, your counters are going to become like just you dodging. I feel like that would be too strong because if you master the parry mechanic, you're pretty much unkillable on this. Yeah, go.
I was gonna say, you know what it could be? Maybe you take slight damage now instead of being invincible or not taking damage at all like you normally would
you
from
get
that.
weight instead of getting just full on hit. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, Leon might struggle to actually do it. He takes chip or something. That would be interesting, actually. That would make it so at least it's not completely overpowered.
They might even reduce the window for parrying on higher difficulties. But again, this is speculation, so we could probably move on.
Well, real quick too, because they did also bring back the struggle mechanic, which RE2 and 3 were both lacking in. I don't know why it took 2 remakes for them to realize, oh, hey, we had a struggle mechanic in most of these other games. Time to bring it back. So
yeah,
I just think it's kind of weird that it took them 2 remakes to finally realize that they should bring back a mechanic that's been there since RE1. Just saying. But anyway, I'll read off number 8 here. If RE4 Remake brings back the Mercenaries game mode, how should they do it? I'm going to say right now, not like Village. Absolutely not like Village. The only thing that I would carry over from Village, and only to a slight degree, because I would change this more so to be closer to Mercenaries 3D, is I would bring back the abilities, but I would not have them RNG based. I would have them customizable in a menu, and then I would have custom loadouts also in a menu before you jump into Mercenaries. I would have those weapons just unlock over time as you play those characters, or with points or whatever, and just let you customize your characters how you want. I think Village had a good idea of being able to go to the merchant and buy whatever weapons you saw fit for your stages. I hated the fact that the perks or abilities were RNG based. So that could completely make or break your run, especially in Mad Village. And I also hate the fact that Mad Village prevented you from ever having weapons. That said, everything else I would keep the same as RE4 style. Mercenaries, maybe make it a little more like RE5 Mercenaries by including like No Mercy. But otherwise, just give me more customization and maybe some more characters. I don't think anybody's complaining about more characters, right? So
make Ashley playable.
I was gonna say make Krauser playable.
That would be funny.
Yeah, it is playable in all Mercenaries. But I say I'm gonna go next though. I'm actually in the opposite camp here. It comes down depending on the perks. I'm actually fine with them being randomized for some effect of how powerful they are. Because unlike say the other game, Mercenaries 3D, you can actually stack your perks together. Like say you have a health up, right? You can stack more than one on top of that, right? Making you a tank essentially. Right, so like I'm fine with that level of customability. Simple fact that 1 is random, and 2 you can make yourself to pretty much a god tier character at that point, right? The issue at hand is the balancing of how they do the difficulties, right? I don't mind Mad Village existing to a certain degree. Some fact that it's just a harder mode, right? Why I take issue is taking away options from the player. That's what's the biggest fatal flaw for Mercenaries in 8. Because like the first 4 technically, fucking amazing stages. I love doing them. I had fun doing them. What I did have fun was on the preset enemies though, because once you drop your own combo, man, you can't get a good bonus out of that, right? So I don't like that personally though, but I could get why they did it, considering what type of Mercenaries it is. But aside from that though, like Ethan, for example, because the other characters to a certain degree don't have this issue. Is severely nerfed if you play on Mad Village. Sorry, Village of Shadows. That's what the most technically supposed to be called. Because you only get the base handgun, which is garbage, and you only get the grenade launcher, the China Lake or whatever, which is cool in itself, right? But
your ammo is more limited, which is not great.
Ammo is limited though. Granted, it's a powerful gun, but limited ammo, and you only get the a Magnum revolver. But the problem is that you cannot upgrade that revolver, and there's no ammo for it. So if you use
I thought it was the not the Wolfsbane, but the other one that you get.
No, it's the Wolfbane. It's the Wolfbane. And that one, you only get up to 6 or 8 shots, and once you use them all, that's it. You can't get any more Magnum ammo. So I do not like that stuff at all. You need to get rid of that system permanently. Like, that's not fun. Taking away your freedom and customization, and give you a higher difficulty is not a way to do.
It felt like arbitrary.
Yeah. Like it's just not fun.
They bottleneck you so hard you've almost no ammo ever. It's like, yeah, I get that that's supposed to try and make it hard, but it feels like a very cheap way just by making me so limited I can't do anything.
I'm sure fine limit ammo though, but just don't take away my guns. Like seriously, you have a good arsenal of weapons. Not all of them, of course, though, but good enough where you can choose which terror gun you want and take them to your map. The fact that I can't even do that, stuck with the same trash loadout throughout 4 stages that are ballless, and like I'm a madman for doing it though, but I'll be damned if I try to go for triple S. It's just not fun.
And Brand.
Oh god. I was just gonna say really quick too, like I think because the other thing with Village Mercenaries is that they kind of hybridize RE3 style with RE4. So it's basically you have an objective and you don't kill unlimited enemies, or 150 or whatever it was, or 300 in No Mercy, right? I don't necessarily mind an enemy count, but I do think that they should go for like the high numbers, like 150 or like 300 for like No Mercy, because that's the thing I want to see is No Mercy mercenaries for sure. Especially because we already know that like Capcom can definitely handle throwing in a shit ton of enemies in RE Engine because they did it with Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition. Yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, they could do it though, but a lot of lessons could be learned there though. Just don't repeat same mistakes from Village, because they started out strong, but ended out poorly. Now, suffice to say though, like the other characters ironically don't have as much of an issue with the later half of Mercenaries though, but that's for another 10. Right, I'm done. So my TED Talk's done.
Yeah, anybody else want to say something about Mercenaries in RE4 Remake?
Just make it better than Village.
Right?
That's all you got to do.
Yeah, that's simple request.
Honestly, I've never really ever gotten into Mercenaries too much, but you guys are gonna hate me for this, but I did like the upgrade system in Village. I just hated the fact that it was fucking randomized, especially the perk system. Yeah, I think Dom said that if you customize it in the main menu, it's better, and I'm down with that. But I kind of want to customize guns too. If I'm gonna buy something from the store, I want it to have like the shit I want on it. If it's gonna be expensive, that's fine. I'll just route my shit better and just buy it that way.
And I was just gonna say really quick because mind you, like Mercenaries 3D, the 3DS game, they did it that way where you could customize your gun, not your guns, but your perks. You could have a couple of perks that you could add to each character to make them feel a little more unique with the abilities. And then for the loadouts, you couldn't customize the loadouts like in Village, but what you could do is you could swap the preset loadouts between characters. So like if you like Jill's loadout, you could have it on Krauser, or if you like Hunk's loadout, you could have it on Chris, stuff like that.
So, in that aspect, I would love to have like character selection too in Mercenaries.
Mm-hmm.
If you can play as Vesker, I know he shows up in 4, doesn't he?
Yeah,
he is playable in 4.
Yeah, he's playing with Mercenary, so there's no reason for them not to do it. So yeah. Like I see the fact that Rebecca has a scene in the trailer that she's holding a gun at someone. I couldn't tell you who it might be. It might be Simon. It might be Leon. I don't know. Might be herself. She's going Simon. Yeah, like Rebecca might not Rebecca. Fuck me.
Ashley.
Ashley. I said Rebecca.
Rebecca.
I made a joke earlier. That's why I said Rebecca. But yeah, if Ashley is actually playable too, and actually can do shit. That would be fucking great. Because her useless nature in base version of 4 was not fun. One thing that's annoying in every video game is babysitting. So if they actually like build her up in the story and like in Mercenaries you can actually like put it to use, that'd be fucking great.
The ultimate irony is that she is so useless on normal self, but like, give her that night costume, she's like the best thing ever in the game.
Yeah, she's invincible and she makes enemies fall over. It's funny as shit.
It's the night costume.
That got to be in the game. I would be pissed off of it.
You know what? I think it should be in the game too.
Yeah,
honestly,
on that. IMortalBrandel, bro. Like, I don't worry about nothing.
Honestly, knowing how cheeky Capcom is, it might be a reference to it, but like not actually. Maybe there will be like a slight section where she has to wear armor to go through something. Well, I don't think it might be like a permanent thing they can put up, unless there's like a cheat kit. So,
she looks at a suited armor and says, "Not in a million years."
Okay. So the thing with the costumes like that, like, you know, as far as like making her playable in like Mercenaries, like, because costumes like wasn't a thing in Mercenaries per se in RE4. Like it was, but it was like a hidden thing. It wasn't like RE5 and it wasn't like RE5 and 6 where they were like, okay, this is like the same character but separate loadout because you're wearing a different costume. So we wanted to do something different with these characters. So like they had multiple slots for like Chris and Sheva in 5 because, you know, they're wearing different costumes, so they swapped out their loadouts. And 6 kind of followed that as well. RE4 Remake for Mercenaries, you know, assuming they're going to let you wear costumes in Mercenaries, which I really hope they do, if Mercenaries is a thing, because that's another thing. We don't know if Mercenaries is going to come back. I really hope that they don't cut out Mercenaries. I hope it comes back.
Go my Capcom's comment though. They'd be stupid to actually cut it out.
Yeah, cut it out and like not bring it back and yeah. So like,
especially after like 8, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, and especially considering that they just did it in 8. Like I'm sure people like Village's Mercenaries to some degree, you know. But what I would like to see them do is like, okay, like here are these other costumes. I do think that like Capcom maybe just like RE2 Remake, because if I'm not mistaken, it is the RE2 Remake team that's working on RE4 Remake.
Yes.
Maybe they'll pull the same thing that they did with RE2 Remake, where they'll give us a trailer and be like, hey, by the way, here are the classic costumes, and here's all this other stuff that was in the original game as well as far as cosmetics go, right? So they might do that. They might not. So only time will tell. But I think it would be kind of ridiculously funny to see Ashley running around in Mercenaries, in her night costume, like as like an unlock. You know, like you can't fucking die, you can't get hurt. You're just gonna be a god in Mercenaries playing that character.
I'm sure they find a way to balance that out. Ironically.
Actually, now that you mentioned that, it might just be like a fucking pickup or some shit. Like some Mario mushroom crap where you just pick up armor and it's like you're like invulnerable for a bit. That would be silly, but it'll be funny.
I could see that working for a mechanic.
It's not like Ghosts and Goblins, honestly. Take on one hit or whatever.
Arthur mode, let's go.
Oh my.
Yeah, that's what I mentioned.
I can literally see them doing that now that you bring that up. Like
Capcom done some goofy out of pocket stuff before, so
yeah, they did with the games. I think during the loading screens or whatever, like they had mini games of their arcade stuff. One of them in particular, I think it was Revelations 2. Yeah, Ghosts and Goblins mini game with Barry.
Oh, word! I didn't even know that.
Yeah, it was something like that. They had something goofy on the Switch versions of Revelations 1 and 2.
Oh fuck, that's fucking cool. Yeah, I'm gonna have to take a look at that later because I didn't even know that. Anybody else want to talk about Mercenaries? What they want to see with it before we move on to number 9?
Nope.
Alrighty, then Chaos, you want to go ahead and read off number 9 then for us?
Capcom did mention they have no plans to remake Code Veronica at the moment. They mentioned that if the opportunity knocked, they would do it. What are your thoughts on this?
You want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go ahead. To me that just says like, yeah, we're just not gonna do it. Like, I don't know. I don't know. Like, it seems like they kind of threw some hopium in for people at the very end there, being like, well, we maybe we might do it one day eventually, sometime, and I don't know. To me, it just seems like it's like PR speak for it's not going to happen. Basically, like, I kind of hope it's not the case, but it just sounds like they really are not planning to do it. It's probably they're prioritizing like the mainline titles. Like, they're probably just going to go forward like with the other Resident Evil games if they remake any more, like Resident Evil 5, Resident Evil 6. Code Veronica is probably just going to, Impelled, maybe in go back to Resident Evil 1. It seems like Code Veronica is probably like bottom of their priorities in terms of like remakes for some reason.
Anybody else want to go here really quick before because I kind of want to go last on this one because I have quite a bit to say about this in particular.
I haven't played Veronica, so I'm not gonna say shit.
Yeah, I haven't played it either, but I would love to see it.
Yeah, same. I haven't really played it myself, but I would be interested to see a remake of it.
I am really mad at not doing it, honestly. Like, I like have a plan, whatever, but honestly, I think they're kind of bullshitting. I think it's a way to shut up people and say, like, we don't have plans.
That too.
But behind the scenes, like, they actually are planning it, just so they don't have no teams available to do it, Because they already have RE9 development, they're middle of RE4, and God knows what other projects they got going on. So yeah, I'm pretty sure they literally have all the hands.
There's a possibility they could like surprise people and be like, "Oh, hey, we were planning the whole time on doing it. We were just like fucking with you." But I think that's kind of unlikely considering it. To me, it just seems like they're going to prioritize the other games over the Code Veronica. At least that's the impression I get. But
you said that they said they might do it, they might not.
Pretty much.
They say they have no plans though. But
they said it's possible.
Opportunity opens to do it.
But they might do it. It just, this whole thing, it just reminds me of like, I know this is off topic for it, but it reminds me of like System of a Down, where they're like, oh, we're going to make a new album. Oh, we're not making a new album. Oh, we're not. It's one of those where it's like, you aren't, but I understand if they're not going to do it, if they're not going to make Code Veronica remake. But at the same time, it does look like a game that it deserves to be remade. But I understand, like y'all said, they're prioritizing the mainline games at this time.
Mm-hmm.
They might make it.
That's what now. Personally, though, I really, really do like the game, but there's a lot of key flaws. I do mean key flaws to a point where it's practically soft lock and game breaking that prevents it from being one of the best of the best, objectively speaking. Because out of all the 2D games, though, I think it plays the best. But we have to factor in stuff like, you can soft lock yourself out of in a boss fight, or cut to one character over the other for not having the foresight of doing one thing. That can be easily fixed with a remake. Because Foundation Rise, though, Revelations, Code Veronica is really solid. Just it needs that extra polish to it.
Also,
and Capcom is just sleeping on it.
Also, I thought about this too. Like, if they're planning to do any other Resident Evil games, like, wouldn't there be some kind of like, doesn't Code Veronica technically kind of, I think people said it connects somewhat to 5 or something, or it's I'm not.
Okay, well, Code Veronica takes place after 3, like a few months after 3, or in 2, because they're in the same time frame. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Code Veronica is one of those games that directly connected towards Resident Evil 5, and it has a lot of references within that game itself. So yeah, it's very, very important lore-wise to Resident Evil 5 in particular. So yeah, they kind of had to do something with it. Otherwise, yeah, they're literally contradicting, established canon.
If they do decide, just saying, if they do decide to make a Code Veronica X remake, they should do it at least before 5.
That's what I'm saying,
I mean,
right? Because if it's there to kind of establish things that and to happen in 5, like it would make sense. But although it's always possible that they could like try to write around that or something, if they're I mean, because it is also a remake.
That's they can. That's they can write around it because it's so ingrained in the lore.
Just hope they don't pull off.
I mean, they could always just retcon the events of it, right? I mean, if they're like rewriting things, they could just be like, "Oh, well, it never happened."
Not really, because the virus from RE Code Veronica is relevant in a couple of other games as well. If I'm not mistaken, the T Veronica is also used to enhance or is used as a basis for the C virus in RE6.
So basically, if they ever plan to remake 5 and 6, they kind of
have to remake Code Veronica. My theory is, real quick before I actually get on my point here, is that I do think that maybe the reason why they chose 4, aside from the fact that it is the most popular, the more popular RE game between that and Code Veronica, is that RE4 as a game itself is kind of an isolated story. It doesn't really connect with any other Resident Evil game other than the fact that, they mentioned that the events of Resident Evil 2 and 3 happened 6 years ago. Right? Everything else is just its own thing. You don't really have much involvement with Umbrella. You don't really know what is going on. It's an isolated tale. Whereas when you play Code Veronica, it's not only a direct sequel to 2, but it leads into 5 and picks up with Chris after the events of Code Veronica. And really, really gets into that story, right? And has aspects of of the lore just thrown in there. Like RE5, like a lot of people don't really give that game credit as an RE game because it has a lot of fucking notes, like just even in the loading screens regarding lore.
And something to add too is Chris's encounter with Wesker. That right there is a very pivotal moment for Chris to even do what he was even doing as well to stop Wesker. That without that though, it kind of like for SARS diminished the whole context around Resident Evil 5's encounter because they already met before, right? So thus Chris knows what Wesker's capable of. Just he's a little bit surprised because he's obviously like stronger, right? So yeah, when you take that into account though, like if you take away Code Veronica, it really does create a domino effect of things that literally damages the games there forward.
Yeah.
It also it makes it less obvious why Wesker hates Chris even more. Like because Code Veronica adds to that.
Yeah. He makes it blatant, like I fucking hate this motherfucker.
Yeah. Yeah. Every bit of Chris's character revolving around Wesker ties to the fact that Code Veronica happened and also RE1, because Code Veronica just, for Chris at least, picks up like that whole thing with those two characters in that game. So my theory is that like Capcom only wanted to remake 4 first because of the fact that it's an isolated game in terms of lore, right? Obviously, I do think that with the remake, they are going to try to push more lore aspects and try to connect it better to the overall lore because it didn't originally. And I think that's what they need to do with that story. Obviously, I don't know if they're actually going to do that, but that's what I hope. And then I think after RE4 remake and after RE9, we'll see Code Veronica. Part of the other reason too, unless if you guys wanted to continue your point here, because I do want to get into some specifics, but that's kind of my theory.
Oh, right.
All right, so in my opinion, I think that Code Veronica remake will happen eventually. I think them just saying, yeah, we have no plans to do it currently means that eventually you're going to do it. Because for the longest time they were ignoring Resident Evil 2 Remake, and then they finally did it, and then they did Resident Evil 3 Remake, and now they're doing RE4 Remake. And I think Code Veronica, despite being one of the lower selling RE games, will eventually get a remake to, try to get new people to play Remake and also try to cater to the fans of the original game. But I think Village kind of proved that with all the stuff that they made from the ground up for that game in terms of assets and just locales and stuff like that, that Village wasn't just made to be kind of like the prototype or the game to walk so that Resident Evil 4 could run, so to speak, right? I think that like the castle, for instance, has the castle and the House Beneviento, where you walk around and have to deal with all the dolls and shit. I think those two locations in particular have a lot of things in there that are going to be reused for Resident Evil Code Veronica Remake, Resident Evil 1 Remake, and Resident Evil 0 Remake. Because I think they're going to remake those 3 games next before they even touch Resident Evil 5, Resident Evil 6, and potentially Revelations. I think that's what it's really going to be. And I think they're also going to use RE4 Remake and specifically its castle locations and parts of the rooms for that game to essentially recreate certain aspects and textures for Code Veronica, Resident Evil 1, and Resident Evil 0. Because I think those 3 games are going to get those remakes, but I think they're going to do it in a very specific way. I think we'll see a remake of 1 again first, then 0, then Code Veronica. Or we might see Code Veronica first, then Remake, then 0. Because I think they're going to kind of do like instead of going forward, they're going to start going backwards in terms of remakes, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I can see that.
In a sense, yeah.
So,
yeah. I also asked my girlfriend, she liked Code Veronica. She said she likes it a lot.
Yeah, there are definitely people that like Code Veronica, but it is it's a Resident Evil game that's lesser appreciated. It definitely has its following, but it is not as appreciated for a number of different reasons. Partly because it's not Resident Evil 3. That doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad game, but there are aspects of it that make it difficult for some people compared to Resident Evil 3. I find Resident Evil Code Veronica to be way more difficult than RE3. I've never completed it. I've been very close to beating it, but I've always just gotten stuck at certain points and felt like I cannot get past the points that I'm stuck at, and I have to restart my playthrough and try to redo everything again. So that's how I feel about it. Back then, when people were talking about how they wanted to get a Resident Evil Code Veronica remake before RE4 Remake was ever announced, and when RE2 Remake was first announced, I was of the opinion that RE Code Veronica didn't need a remake, specifically because we had the HD remaster.
Yep.
However, the only reason why I've kind of changed my opinion on that is because I do think that if Code Veronica gets remade, this is the chance for Code Veronica to not only appeal to someone like me who's never completed Code Veronica, but also for people who might not have ever played that game. And aside from that, they could do a lot of things to just overall improve Code Veronica as a game. And I think a remake of that game would definitely be necessary, especially because it seems like Capcom is trying to remake a lot of Resident Evil games to, again, be in the RE engine to fit that style, that art style, and that style of game.
Yeah.
That, and it could also, like you mentioned, cater to new people to have an appreciation for Code Veronica as well.
Yeah, basically, it seems like they want everything to be more consistent, so I'm going to try to remake all the games that are, well, as many as I can, I guess, into RE engine.
Just don't pull a Final Fantasy and have it to multiple parts. That would make me upset.
Oh, that would even work on Resident Evil.
I don't think that would work on Resident Evil because most Resident Evil games are short.
Yeah, versus a giant ass RPG like that, like that's a whole nother can of worms.
Yeah.
Most of the time, Capcom makes Resident Evil games that you can make these games be very challenging, and your first run could take a couple, like up to 10 to 14 hours, maybe, right? But they consistently make these games to where you could basically beat them in about 2 to 3 hours for the most part on average. That's just a rough average estimate, depending on the game, of course, because there are a few outliers. And more or less just replay these games just to have fun with them. They don't ever try to make these games to where like you have to go out of your way to grind and put hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours. I don't think Capcom will ever do that with a Resident Evil game. I think consistently, like, you know, if they were to ever remake Code Veronica or any other Resident Evil game for that matter, or even just make a new game, you're never going to get a quote unquote part 1, part 2, part 3, etc.
I would laugh if they actually made a long, like kind of like a long type of Resident Evil game where it's like multiple things to do in it. But I know that will never happen.
That's unless they made some kind of open world game, I guess.
Yeah, something like that.
It's Entire Galaxy though. That's literally Resident Evil 3.
Yeah, that's true.
True.
The original,
Yeah.
of course. All right, any more thoughts on this? Because I think we can move on.
I think we can move on.
One thing after that. Hold on. Do you want them to remake Code Veronica if they ever got the chance?
Yes.
There you go. There you go. That's all I had to say.
All right.
I need someone else's input.
You need confirmation bias. It's okay.
Well, she really enjoys Code Veronica. She's like Brandon, really enjoys it.
I know. I'm just fucking.
I agree. I enjoy Brandon too. Team Oreo for life. Buy our shirts that we don't have yet.
And remember to drink Monster Energy drinks.
This is Oreo 1-2 signing out. Anyway, so I think we're all good. Unless if anybody has any other points to make on this, we could go ahead and move on to number 9. Do you want to read off number 9, Brandon? Brandito?
I thought that was number 9 of Code Veronica.
Oh, that was number 9? Holy fuck.
Yeah.
Would you like
we
to
were
read
talking about Code Veronica so much, I forgot the question.
Would you like to read
number 10 is
number 10?
Thoughts,
yeah, number 10.
Closing thoughts.
Closing thoughts. For the most part, the showcase was cool. I was kind of hoping, when they said like world premiere, like that we would see like a new game, or something else, not reverse, because you can't really premiere a game that we've already had a premiere for and knew that was coming out, I think. But just
reboot. Captain.
Yeah, I guess. But
we'll just say that
says, man, I guess
new changes made.
For Remake, I think we're all pretty fucking hyped for it, right? Like,
yep.
Everybody's
the god is coming back.
Hey, it's that dog.
Yeah,
the dog is
looking
coming
forward to trying that out for sure.
I do like also just real quick, aside from before Remake, that we're just getting so many horror titles coming out relatively close to one another, like Callisto Protocol, the Dead Space remake. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Of course, opinions vary on it, but the Silent Hill 2 remake is eventually coming. Resident Evil 4, like all this other stuff. I kind of like that there. There's so much to look forward to in terms of horror games.
I would say like indie horror games too.
Well, yeah, that as
those
well.
Don't really count. Like Signalis, for example.
Yeah, I've heard
it still counts. So it's still a game.
Yeah,
Signalis is pretty. It looks pretty good.
Yep. My thing about it is like, RE4, RE4 best announcement that they brought out.
Mm-hmm.
It stole the show, honestly. Like it ironically overshadowed the roles on DLC.
I mean,
Yep.
Like, I was like, oh, that's cute, Leon.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cute. Chainsaw parry with a knife.
Yeah, I liked what I saw. I liked that they expanded upon a lot of things in terms of, you know, what we can expect from combat. And they kind of gave us some implications that there's going to be some changes with certain characters. So yeah, it's definitely going to be we already get the implication. It's going to be a reimagining, which I like. And it's going to have a lot of differences, in a good way from the original Resident Evil 4. So I'm very curious to see more of it, before maybe it actually comes out. Maybe we can hope for them implementing some of the cut content, from the original RE4. That'd be interesting too. And also real quick, in terms of tone as well, I like that they are leaning more into the horror. I like that because I feel like I feel like, used to one of the main criticisms as the series went on, like post Resident Evil 4, was it moved more away from the horror. And I really like that it's trying to embrace the horror element again. I think that's something that they, because after Resident Evil 6, they're just, I feel like they realize like we kind of need to go back to the drawing board. We need to try to go back to the horror roots. And I like that they're at least trying to do that again.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, the horrors for the enemies, though.
Yep.
I think the really good thing, even with like RE4 Remake, it seems like, despite like this game being action, they're really trying to have more emphasis on that, and I hope that stays consistent throughout the entire game. Same thing with like, if they ever remake RE5 and maybe even RE6, because I'm sure eventually that game will get remade too. I would like to see them be, keeping the things that actually made those games what they were, but doing things where it's like, hey, these games strayed away from what made Resident Evil, but we're also going to try to put in more things to make.
I feel like with Resident Evil 6, it would have to be like a totally different game, honestly. Like just with how much it really kind of would jump the shark. Like they would have to.
Yeah, I agree. Like 6 cannot come out the same game.
I am so glad
of that game. 3/4 of that game has to be changed.
Yeah, because I know like was it the Leon campaign? It's more like or
it
is.
Early segments of Leon and like one chapter with Ada are the only fucking parts of the game that actually are a horror game. Everything else is a fucking action game that jumps the shark like ridiculously, literally. Actually,
I'm guilty of loving it too much.
Yeah,
the combat is okay. The combat, like, it's over. Oh, I say over the top for Resident Evil. No, the fuck, it's not. So what the hell am I saying? The horror is not there, but the combat system is so good. I honestly kind of stopped caring. The story's a mess. That part I won't disagree with, though.
I'm in the camp of 6 combat system is not that good.
I'm in the camp of
pretty fun.
RE6, fine game, goes on way too long.
Yeah,
I mean, honestly, just a mercenaries game for me.
It's
honestly.
very overly loaded from what I hear.
Fine game.
That's one of the few games I played where I just did not have fun with.
RE4 is taking things from 6. That parry shit, 6 had that.
Yeah, that's actually a good parry because the parry is in a 6 with trash. The tight window and frame and whatnot. Yeah,
not that hard.
It's not that hard though. It's like how small there is. If
I thought aren't there there are not perks that improve that or something like that? I know something affects parries.
No, the fuck didn't.
Probably damage.
Yeah, there's no perks that affects the parries. Because certain enemies, like ironically, that's the problem like Resident Evil 3 has. Each enemy has like a unique frame timing for each parries, whatever. And
freaking hunters.
Yeah, I don't like it whatsoever.
You know what? Before we wrap things up, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but like, because it got me thinking. Like, sorry,
like always.
Like,
faulting this man.
It's got me thinking. Would you guys be down in the future to talk about like what we would want out of an RE6 remake before it ever gets announced, so that way we can have like a video archive, like looking back at like what we would have wanted and what would have came out of it if it ever happens, right? And we talk about that.
That would have
Maybe.
to be RE6.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. Is like
Yeah.
RE6, right? If
Mhm.
we talk about a game if we talk about that in the future, right? For a future podcast where we talk about that and talk about what we would want out of an RE6 remake, right? And just have that as an archive, right? Our archive of the podcast, right? And then talk about RE6 remake whenever it gets announced, and talk about like, hey, this is everything we kind of talked about, right? And or like, this is what they're doing with the remake, and this is what's happening with it. This is what we kind of predicted or thought should happen, and this is a bunch of this other stuff, right?
Well, when I'm 52, I'll hope I remember that. Now, how long it's going to take for RE6 to get a remake, forget it. And how big that game is, like, that's the whole project.
I'll be
I don't
60.
know. RE4 remake coming out in 2023. RE9 probably going to come out in 2024 or 2025. I think we'll see RE6 remake in like
around 38 by the time that game comes out.
I think we'll see. I think we'll see like RE6 remake 2026, 2028, somewhere in that ballpark.
We better be here whenever they do the Ori Village remake.
Damn, Sony.
Where'd you find this?
Yeah.
No, only thing I want is if they're gonna do what they've done with the like RE2 and 3 remake demo.
Yeah, for sure.
Because Lord knows I'm not gonna look back after that demo comes out.
So anyway,
I forgot to ask though, how you guys feel about the character designs?
I think we kind of.
I mean, Leon.
I'm not liking Louise, man. He's looking
Louise looks
little
weird.
too sleazy.
He looks like an incel.
He's supposed to be sexy.
Incel.
Louise is anything but that. I mean,
he looks like Jetstream Sam, except with all the handsomeness taken out of him.
Fair point.
I like his jacket. I think the face will grow on me though.
I feel like they some other characters,
those fucking giant bug eyes.
Like some of the
I think the new jacket, instead of it being a vest, is kind of cool.
Like
I don't know.
Like for instance, like Leon looks close to his original character design for the most part. What was it? Was it Huntington or like she?
Huntington.
Yeah, she kind of looks the same.
Huntington looks really good.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, different haircut.
Yeah.
But yeah, she still seems very faithful.
She's pretty. Yeah, she's pretty much one for one outside of a different hairstyle.
Yeah, and then I think the most different. I think what was it? Was it Salazar? Like he looks kind of
Salazar.
Yeah, he looks kind of weird.
I don't like him. I know he's supposed to look weird, but not that kind of weird.
It's honestly on point because Leon called him an old man, even though he obviously looks young. So like, I think that's kind of the good goal with it. No, like
I don't have much of an opinion about like Luis. I don't really mind Ashley's new look. Some people are complaining because she's not.
Actually,
some people are complaining because her
she's
costume,
literally the same with the jacket over her shit.
She doesn't have a
she has no big ass ears.
The ears too, yeah.
I've seen people say that. It's funny.
I mean,
they would have to find a model with big ears, though. Like, I mean, just to get her to look like
just increase the fucking thing. We have technology. We don't need anybody. Go hire Dumbo. Like, what do you want?
Guys, can we all?
I'm just here to sell the Asian perspective.
Oh, that's right. Okay. I forgot.
What I was gonna say. Can we all agree?
Mommy.
Can we all agree?
She looks the same.
Can we all agree that they made her look Asian?
Yeah, she looks really Asian.
How many variations of her eyes are you going to move and her jaw are you going to change? That's literally all that happens to her.
I love the stupid tweets that I've seen that someone's like, they made Ada Asian. I was like, well, duh.
Wong. What nationality is Wong?
That's why you don't go on Twitter for video game opinion.
I know. I go on Twitter. I see stupid shit like this. I laugh at them.
Guys, she's clearly black. Let's move on.
I hate you. I was going to say she's obviously African.
We're not. Wait. We weren't talking about the Netflix Resident Evil. What are you talking about?
Oh, right.
No,
we already roasted that. You want
to talk about race?
Anyway, before we start getting off topic here, why don't we go ahead and wrap things up? I'm gonna go ahead and outro you guys. So, Arian, where can we find you, good sir?
On Twitter, good luck finding me, and on YouTube, which is Dark Angel.
Good luck finding him.
Nice. After that, we got DevilHunterJames.
Twitter. That's the
In
only
my
place.
pants.
That too.
Okay.
Wearing my ghillie suit and everything.
Okay. After that, we have Gamma. Where can we find you, sir?
You can find me on Twitter at GammaAlias.
Nice. After that, we have Iveega.
Why you call me Iveega? It's Levy. You know this.
No,
But-
I thought you were Iveega the Amish man now.
No, I thought I was a knockoff computer part company.
Clearly.
But yeah, YouTube and Twitter.
Alrighty. Next up, Sir Brandel, ImmortalBrandel. Where can we find you?
In my ass.
Oh no, the sheriff.
Yep. Yeah, you can find me on Twitter, ImmortalBrandel. Link tree there somewhere. Everywhere else is not a fucking business.
And last but not least, where can we find you, KaptainKaos?
YouTube and Twitter, KaptainKaos. And you can also find me on Instagram where I post my art stuff. It's Enigmatic Arts. Enigmatic with a
Okay,
K.
I said it wrong. I said your last time. I said your fucking Instagram wrong. I said Pragmatic Arts.
Oh, well.
Dramatic Arts.
Sorry.
I still linked your shit,
Okay.
so it's not like they can't not find it. So anyway, you all can find me as BioDevil_Dom. If you're not watching this on YouTube, you can find me there on YouTube with that name or on Twitter. And then after that, we will see what kind of podcasts we'll have in the foreseeable future, because obviously I'm able to upload and stuff. So that'll be fun, right? But other than that, we hope you all enjoyed this podcast and hope you all enjoyed some of our other podcasts. And we hope to see you all again in the future. See ya.
See ya.
Bye.